Okay, I said I was going to give a very special announcement. It's best that I don't say it, so let's just play it. See what you think of this. There are some who have faced every foe, conquered every adversary, defeated every challenge. Every challenge that is, except for each other.
You are not prepared.
For the first time in World of Warcraft history, 4 mighty guilds will face the ultimate test. WoW Radio proudly presents Nihilum, Death and Taxes, Forte, and Method in the show to end all endgame shows. Hear the world's best raiders taking on aspects of raiding past, present and future, as well as each other, as the Bleeding Edge let their voices be heard. Coming soon only on WoW Radio, 4 guilds, 1 very special show, no compromise. Be there to witness the ultimate encounter. The 4 Horsemen. Did I not tell you I was hardcore? Yes, indeed, the 4 Horsemen, the biggest endgame event that World of Warcraft has ever seen. I kid you not. Nihilum, Death and Taxes, Forte, and Method. The same show. All there, discussing the state of endgame. Is that not somewhat epic? Yes, I did just say...
Epic.
Yes, they will all be on the same show, and it is planned at this point to air on June the 1st. That's a Sunday, June the 1st... sorry, that's not June the 1st, is it? I'm an idiot! July the 1st. July the 1st, straight after Blue Please, and just before Octal and Hordak. The 4 Horsemen is coming soon to WoW Radio. And yes, our servers are going to get murdered by it, and we do not care because we have plans for that too, and maybe you'll see them a little bit later on today. That was not my only secret, but this one I'm not telling, you'll just have to see for yourselves. Right, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I really, really do hope that people aren't lagging so much at the moment. I really don't know why. If you are buffering, I must apologise, because I honestly have no idea whatsoever why that is happening. Not a clue, so I'm just going to have to plough on regardless, and the archive will be available after the show. Hell, I might even schedule a rerun for you by someone that doesn't have a connection filled with fail. Right. Let's get on with this, shall we? Now, PvP has always been something of a sticking point within the community. Very much a sticking point. Why? Well, there's millions and millions and millions of possible reasons for that. I mean, let's start with the fact that PvP was tacked on. We all know it was tacked on. Let's admit it was tacked on. Originally, WoW wasn't even designed to have PvP in it. It was a PvE game. Yeah? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing wrong at all. However, now we've got a case where PvP has made its way into the game and is here to stay, and people are PvPers. Yeah? Now, to my knowledge, there is, of course, nothing wrong with that. I don't PvP all that much, although I am on a PvP server, so I don't mind ganking a little bit from time to time, nor do I mind engaging in this so-called world PvP, whatever that might be. I will go into an arena from time to time, I'll go into a battleground from time to time, I wear a couple of pieces of PvP gear, the shiny shoulders always look quite nice, and they've got really good stats. However, the problem we then have is we have two very, very distinct communities, and they both want equal rights as regards to both content and gear. Tricky. Because, of course, you have to quantify the time and effort required. PvP, as you're well aware, can be done with a significantly smaller group of people. It can be done in such a way as to not require you to play for hours on end in any given time. You can invest the time in chunks, and you can be rewarded just as much as you would be had you played, say... Let's take an example. You're playing for an hour, yeah? And you are playing that hour in 4 15-minute chunks. Now, if you did that in PvE, you wouldn't get anywhere. Yeah? You wouldn't get anywhere whatsoever. You need to, obviously, sit down and spend some time with raiding. PvP, on the other hand, doesn't actually punish you. If you spend the time, you are pretty much going to win the same amount of points as you would have otherwise. The arena is probably the best example of that. Arenas, you can be rewarded with points by only playing 10 matches a week. You can, in fact, drive yourself up to a high point rating and then just sit there, doing 10 matches a week and keeping your rating high and reaping the rewards for it. You can also be the worst PvP team imaginable, and you will still get the rewards, one way or the other. Now, this contrasts rather sharply with PvE, in the sense that if you were to raid and you were the worst raiders of all time, you wouldn't even get past the first boss of whatever raid dungeon you happen to be entering. So, how is that resolved? Or is it at all? Well, let's go and have a look at some gear, shall we? Let's go and do a tier comparison. I am going to my favourite site. I love Wowhead. I think it's awesome. I really do. So I'm going there right now to have a look at a few things. Let's do a mage comparison. See, I play a mage. I've played a mage since day one, therefore I know a mage relatively well. So let's pull up the mage tier 4. Hey, Incanters is not the mage tier 4. Why on earth did I look at that? I am such a noob. Let's go and find the tier 4. Perhaps I'm singing. I don't know why. It's a good waste of time. La 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 la. And so forth, and all of that good stuff. Where is that tiered stuff? You see, this is quite embarrassing, because I don't actually have any tier 4. It's horrible, it really is. I have no tier 4 whatsoever. That is a very, very embarrassing thing. You don't really understand just how embarrassing that is. And I can't even remember the name of my set. Oh god. I cannot remember the name of my set, which is why I'm going to look at the boss itself and find the name of the set so I can actually do the comparisons for you. But load up Wowhead if you haven't already. Go and have a look. And you will, of course, find things like the gloves of the Fallen Champion, the gloves of the Fallen Defender, the gloves of the Fallen Hero. Look at the gloves of the Fallen Hero. There's like currency for gloves of the Aldor. And there we go, the Aldor Regalia. So I'm pulling those gloves up right now. Now, have a look at the Aldor Regalia. You will find that it is a relatively good piece of kit. 19 stamina, 22 intellect, 19 spirit, improved spell hit rating by 17, improved spell critical strike rating by 19, and 35 damage and healing. A solid piece of kit, one would think. So, let's bring ourselves up another Wowhead window and do the comparison right now. Wowhead.com, off you go. And we're going to go and have a look at some Gladiators gear. Gladiators. Search for Gladiators. Let's see what we can find. Gladiators cloth something over there. Let's go and find the gloves for the mage, specifically. Where are my gloves? I wish to have my gloves. They are hidden somewhere inside this damn Wowhead thing. I can't wear the gloves, can I? Of course I can't. How annoying. You see, I had all these links prepared, and it turns out the links have turned out to be completely and totally wrong, which is not helpful whatsoever. Fortunately, I have supposedly found what I am looking for. Or so I thought. That's actually the priest ones. This is absolute total fail, what can I say? Dreadweave? No, we don't want that. That's for warlocks. Where is it? I am absolutely stunned. Absolutely stunned. It has disappeared off the face of the planet, and I cannot find it anywhere. How incredibly annoying that is. Anyway, let's try and continue on to actually make the point. Found the damn thing. There we go. Gladiator Silk Handguards. Right, here's the comparison for you. It's a 39 stamina, 14 intellect, 21 spell crit, 21 resilience, 5 improved yard range on your fire blast, and 32 damage and healing. So we pull that one up specifically, and let's do a comparison. Direct comparison between the two items and see whether or not they have actually managed to distinguish them enough. Right, Gloves of the Aldor. Okay, so let's do a direct comparison. Stamina-wise, Gloves of the Aldor misses out, obviously. PvP gear, heavy stamina. Understandable. Less intellect on PvP gear because, well, Arguably, PvP is not so much about mana, although some people would argue otherwise, has to be said. No spirit on Gladiator Silk Handguards. This should not really surprise anybody at all. Spirit is, of course, completely useless in a PvP environment, at least for a mage anyway. So let's keep going. Spell hit. There was 17 spell hit on the Gloves of the Aldor. There was no spell hit on the Gladiator Silk Handguards. As you're well aware, spell hit is not really a factor in PvP. At all, as it happens. It does not, as some people might believe, reduce resistances. What it does is it knocks down level-based resists, yeah? Now, level-based resists cease to be a factor in, of course, level 70 PvP, which is the only PvP that Blink and Well matters. So, of course, you don't have spell hit on that item. So let's continue down. We've got this special ability here, improves the range of your Fire Blast spell by 5 yards. Now, that is, of course, not remotely useful to you in PvE at all. You don't need that extra 5-yard range on Fire Blast. Most people aren't even using Fire Blast in their damage rotation, and of course there is a reason for that. It is completely and totally inefficient as regards to mana to damage ratio. You wouldn't use it unless you had a lot of spare mana knocking about or you wanted to kill something quickly. And we look at the damage, of course, and we've got damage and healing slightly higher on the Aldor. We also have 21 Resilience, Resilience being a new stat which directly reduces the effects of critical hits and the amount of damage that can be caused by them. Rather important in PvP, but not so much in PvE. Now, this is an incredibly good example of good balancing between these two items. You can look at these two items and you can clearly see that one is for PvE and one is for PvP. And one is acquired from PvP and one is acquired from PvE. We can even look at the set bonuses and kind of boggle a little bit. Gives you 100% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while casting Fireball or Frostbolt. Now, spell pushback is not really something that's a massive issue in PvE, unless, of course, you've got a boss that is spitting out AoEs left, right, and centre. It's not really a massive issue. It's the kind of thing that will be more useful in PvP, because, well, mages and casters generally do complain about spell pushback. They really do. Especially Frostspec mages who have no real way to avoid it. They don't have a pushback reduction talent like Arcane and like Fire does. So, that's really great for Frost PvP, but that's not so good for PvE. Now, we go down again. Reduces the cooldown on Presence of Mind by 24 seconds, Blast Wave by 4 seconds, and on Ice Block by 40 seconds. 40 seconds. That is odd. Very odd indeed. Very odd. Presence of Mind, not something I would be using very often in PvE. An instant cast doesn't make much of a difference in a raid encounter. Blast Wave, again, something that I have been known to use in an AoE encounter, but primarily, it's a PvP ability. And Ice Block, which is, as far as I'm concerned, always going to be a PvP ability. I'm sorry, you can claim all you want about the idea of, well, ZoMD, I can do this. I can reduce my aggro and temporarily remove it for 10 seconds with Ice Block. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have pulled aggro in the first place, otherwise you're a really bad mage. Learn to play. So, yeah. That sucks. Now, if you look at the set bonuses for Gladiator Silk Handguards, you've got plus 35 Resilience. Resilience, as we've already commented, is a PvP talent through and through. It was designed for that. And it's a very good PvP talent. It's very well designed. 4 set bonus reduces the cooldown of your Blink spell by 2 seconds. Again, very useful for PvP. Blink is, of course, especially against melee classes, very much the difference between life and death. Reducing the cooldown by that. And that is quite a significant amount, bearing in mind Blink's cooldown is only 15 minutes to begin with. That is significant. So, overall, stats-wise, that's cool. That's fine, yeah? Now, the problem starts to come into play when you have issues with Maligia. Now, I found a rather interesting thread on the European forums, which I'm going to post to the content monkey, and he shall post it in the channel. Those not in the channel, wcradio.com, click the IRC chat button at the top of the screen, irc.wow, irc.com, # or #wow radio. And the thread is called Justification for 97.7 DPS Arena Weapons. Yep. Season 2 has DPS Arena Weapons with like 97.7 DPS. Yeah? Now, a rogue by the name of Tell from Coalescence has commented that they are basically some of the best PvE weapons in the game. And they are a lot easier. Much easier to acquire. Now, that is kind of a problem. The issues with, say, let's have a look at measures between PvP and PvE. There is a degree of distinction between the gear. It's quite a strong degree of distinction. It's a very solid degree of distinction. Stamina, armor, resilience, crit over hit, special abilities like extra range and cooldown reduction on PvP-specific abilities and talents. Yeah, that's cool. The problem you then have, of course, is that a high DPS weapon is, in many essences, a high DPS weapon. Now, you can, of course, argue that certain weapons are better. Say, Warrior PvP. Now, I don't know much about Warrior, so I'm hoping that I don't screw this one up royally and embarrass myself for the world to see. High DPS Warriors in PvE are not really so bothered about big hits and big crits. A Mortal Strike Warrior in PvP, you're looking for a slow weapon that is good for MS. It's the reason that Arcanite Reaper was so awesome back in the day. It was an MS weapon, and MS weapons do continue to persist and exist in a PvP environment. Fury Warriors, not so useful. Dual-wielding Warriors, again, not so useful. The idea of a Warrior in PvP is, the first challenge is to get in blinking melee range with somebody. Now, with all of the tricks available, you won't necessarily stay in melee range for a very long time. Therefore, one would imagine you would want to clonk them as hard as possible, not ping away at them. That's not the way it works. Now, again, of course, you run into problems here, because can you at all justify the idea of a PvP weapon being as good as a PvE weapon for PvE? That is the question I'm going to leave you with as I play No Cake News, and I would like your answers to themurloc@gmail.com. Have a look at the new gear, have a look at the Season 2 arena gear, go and have a look on MMO Champion and that kind of place there, it will find you the information, and see whether or not you can justify it being as good as it is. That's my question for you. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Time for a little bit of No Cake News. Enjoy. No Cake News! Stop that. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the program, a look at Rock and Roll Racing, the MMO. Actually, hang on a minute. That's a really good idea. Blizzard, you listening? Yeah? There is nothing better than isometric racing with missiles and badly synthesized 16-bit interpretations of overplayed metal tracks. Now, get to it! But first, the end is indeed nigh, or at least that's what the vast majority would have you believe. WoW is about to be beaten, destroyed, dismantled, and recycled into badly painted rocking chairs for the lonely granddads of the gaming world. And who will do it, you ask? Well, the new kid on the block, the contender, World of Warhammer. I mean, Warhammer Online. It is claimed that this game is graphically superior, using forbidden technology known as newer game looks better than older game technique. The world governments are investigating this criminal strategy, but as of now, it looks like Mythic, developers of Warhammer Online, are free to continue with their nefarious schemes. Further accusations have been made that Warhammer Online has better PvP than Warcraft. When asked about their PvE content, Mythic developers are thought to have looked quizzically at each other before setting about the report with a large plank of wood with nails in it. However, all of this pales in comparison to the nail in the coffin to end all nails in the coffin. WoW it has been reported, in fact, for girly pansy ladyboys. Surprised by this accusation, No Cake News began its own investigation and came up with astonishing findings.
I am a warrior priest of Sigmar. I bring his will with righteous fury to the faces, kneecaps, and groins of the Empire's foes. I wield an unreasonably large hammer and wear naught for armor but bear furs, which I tore from the very back of a large and angry bear. Fear his wrath, praise Sigmar.
I am a paladin of the light. I bring justice to my foes with the light of Loon. I wield a fabulous sword chock full of delicious plus spell damage. I can throw my shield like a 10th-rate Captain America and conquer my foes behind 10 feet of metal plating and an impenetrable magical barrier. I dislike direct confrontation, preferring instead to stun my opponents with my fabulously gorgeous bright purple armor.
I am an orc warrior of Durotar. I am making up for my demonically possessed Linkin Park emo phase by bringing understanding and freedom to the land. I throw myself into harm's way with comically small weaponry to protect my glorious allies, the flesh-eating sadistic backstabbing trolls, the giant walking steak factories, the rotting and ultimately treacherous corpses, and the Final Fantasy VII rejects with the big hair.
I am a black orc of the Goretooth clan. I have very little concern for anything that's smashing my opponent's face in any means necessary. I don't necessarily and honestly care if I'm protecting my allies at all. I just want them hog in on our fights. Now excuse me while I tear this elf's throat out and turn it into a makeshift mace.
I am a night elf hunter of Nordrusir. I commune with nature and use it to do my bidding. I am inexplicably incapable of fighting within an 8-yard radius of my person, but that's okay, because I have Snuggles the cat to protect me with a small DPS increase and an angry snarl. When endangered, I can meld with the shadow, becoming invisible, although unable to move, breathe, or act in any way.
I am a goblin squig herder. Squiggy, 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 squiggy.
A shocking report indeed. This reporter feels emasculated and will resume his role washing the dishes while his wife yells at him about the state of the carpet. This has been Nutcake News. Oh, why didn't Darren leave me alone? Good night.